We've got something really special in store for today's word of encouragement. Gary Izzard is going to share a message with us. Gary is a senior leader in Wesley Mission, and he has been part of Wesley Mission's community services for more than 20 years. When I think about people who really get who we are as Wesley Mission and who we're meant to be, Gary is right at the top of that list. And I know that anytime I get to hear him offer a reflection or a devotion, it is a huge blessing for me, and I trust that it's going to be a blessing for you today as well. Here's Gary.
25th of January 2020. That was when the first case of COVID-19 was confirmed in Australia. The 25th of January 2020. And now we're wondering whether Christmas in 2021 will be anything like normal. If you count it, that's 624 days of pandemic. Sometimes it's easy to forget that the world goes on, that there's lots of stuff that happens regardless of COVID-19. One of my favourite authors in the world is a guy called Rev Rick Dacey'll, and he says this. He says, "Here is your life. You might never have been, but you are, because the party wouldn't have been complete without you. Here is the world. Beautiful and terrible things will happen. Beautiful and terrible things will happen." I've been thinking a lot about that this week. See, there's this walk I go on 2 or 3 times a week. It's over a headland at Emerald Beach near Coffs Harbour. It's a beautiful spot. It's a beautiful walk. You walk right next to kangaroos. You could even reach out and pat them, I swear. And as you're walking, you look out over this vast expanse of clear blue ocean. You'll often see a whale jumping and frolicking in the distance. You'll see turtles coming up to the surface of the water. You'll see dolphins swimming and playing in the waves. About halfway through this walk, you go up a steep incline. It is really steep. It actually takes your breath away. And as you get to the top, you see this vast expanse of water and this beautiful beach that goes on and on and on. Clean, sweeping waves and the colour of surfers and the grace of surfers as they ride those waves. It's good for the soul. And yet on Father's Day, a young man kissed his wife goodbye and went to that beach and lost his arm to a shark in that very spot. Beautiful and terrible things will happen. Beautiful and terrible things will happen. I've been thinking a lot about that this week. Out near Singleton this week, a little boy with autism went missing. AJ couldn't communicate, and for 24 hours he was alone in the bush through cold nights and long days. And we all held our breaths, expecting the worst but hoping for the best. And then at the end of one of those COVID news conferences that started at 11 o'clock every day and seem to go forever, when we hear about the number of people who've been infected with COVID and we hear about the people who have died, at the end of one of those news conferences, we heard that AJ was okay, that he was found drinking out of a water hole and taken back to his family, clinging to an SES volunteer. And he was smiling, and the volunteer was smiling, and he was reunited with his family, and there was celebration. Beautiful things. Beautiful things. Beautiful and terrible things will happen. I've been thinking a lot about that this week. Frederick Buechner puts these words into the mouth of God. Let me remind you again of what he says. He says, "Here is the world. Beautiful and terrible things will happen. Don't be afraid. I am with you. Nothing can ever separate us. It's for you I created the universe, and I love you." Can you hear God whisper that to you today? Can you hear those words in your ears? Beautiful and terrible things will happen. Don't be afraid, for I am with you. Don't be afraid, because I love you. And that is my prayer for you on this day. On this day, beautiful and terrible things may happen, but don't be afraid, because I am with you and I love you.